Hello everyone, my name is Ryan Cam and welcome back to the AFI project. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Civil War classic Gone with the Wind from 1940. This movie was directed by Victor Fleming, who would also go on to direct a little movie called The Wizard of Oz. More on that to come later. And Gone with the Wind stars Clark Gable and Vivien Leigh, among others. And this is based on the legendary book written by Margaret Mitchell. And to sum this movie up into an elevator pitch, it's basically the story of the long and torrid love affair between Rhett Butler, played by Gable, and Scarlett O'Hara, played by Vivien Leigh. Their on-again, off-again romantic relationship lasts from the very first days of the Civil War all the way to the end and, deep into Reconstruction. So, roughly speaking, 20 years? It's pretty safe to say that the praise for Gone with the Wind over the years has just been overwhelming. My first exposure to this was when ABC did a countdown of the greatest movies ever made. Gone with the Wind was number 1. I believe this was in 2009 or 10. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was around there. And I always meant to check out Gone with the Wind, but similar to Citizen Kane, the movie just felt a little daunting to me. But now that I have actually seen it, I can safely say that all the praise is warranted. However, I find myself saying that Gone with the Wind is very much a mixed bag. Now, don't get it twisted. I'm not saying that Gone with the Wind is a bad movie. Far from it. I have a lot of positives for the movie. However, there's also some stuff that I just either didn't like or just didn't understand. My two favorite things about the movie were Clark Gable as Rhett Butler and the cinematography. Let's talk about Gable first. Judging from my research, Clark Gable was kind of like the George Clooney or the Robert Downey Jr. of his day. Whenever he was in a movie, people immediately flocked to go see him. And while he had a very lengthy career, this is the movie that he is most remembered for, and for good reason. Rhett kind of comes off as a southern gentleman who's just barely southern. He has very northern sensibilities, but he was born in the South, so he's like a north-south kind of dude. He's the MMA position. My favorite scene in the movie comes like scene 3, where we meet Rhett for the very first time. He's chatting it up with these southern gentlemen, these proprietors, and they're like, oh, we're gonna defeat those Northerners, because, we're the South, and we're always gonna rise again. And then Rhett says in so many words that the Yankees are better equipped than us. They have all the technology, the trains, the telegraph, and then he polishes that off by saying, all we have are cotton, slaves, and arrogance. And all of these southern gentlemen just get royally pissed. They're like, how dare you say that the North can beat us? They're the North. They're not going to defeat us. When Rhett just basically called the entire Civil War. And now let's talk about the cinematography, because for a movie that was released in 1940, the cinematography is incredible. Color movies were still a relatively new thing around this time, so oftentimes the color would just come off as looking really tacky. But this movie was directed by Victor Fleming, who directed all of the color scenes in The Wizard of Oz. And he brings that color sensibility from the land of Oz to the city of Atlanta, and it's just beautiful. Two of my favorite scenes in this movie are the burning of Atlanta and what I'm just going to call the bodies scene, because I don't know what to call it other than the bodies scene. The burning of Atlanta is just straight up haunting stuff. You just see buildings on fire and just crumbling over with a haunting version of Way Down South in Dixieland. It's terrifying stuff. To give a better perspective, the haunting of Atlanta in Gone with the Wind is more haunting than 90% of the horror movies that I've seen this year. And then there's the bodies scene, where the camera just pans with Scarlett O'Hara trying to help these these soldiers who are just injured and pretty much dying, and the camera's just panning left and right with shots that I was just like, in 1940, how was that accomplished? With the burning Confederate flag in the background. Again, just really terrifying stuff. My favorite character scene in the movie involves Scarlett O'Hara. I'm going to talk about her in a little bit, but my favorite scene involving her is when the burning of Atlanta has happened, the Union is officially taken over Georgia, and the war is pretty much lost at this point. But she's all disheveled, she started off as this delicate southern flower. Now she's the complete opposite of that. She goes back to her family home, and it is on fire. It's a very bad day. However, on her land, she stumbles and she finds this molting and really nasty looking carrot. And she just digs it out of the earth like it's like the only food that could ever save her. And she grabs it and she says, "I swear to God, I will never go hungry again," in like this just defining like moment of the movie. And then immediately after that, it goes into an intermission. Like, if the movie had just ended there, I think I would have liked it more. Unfortunately, the movie continued. And this is where we have to talk about Scarlett O'Hara, played by Vivien Leigh. Now, Vivien Leigh does a great job in this movie. She has to convey a lot of emotions, and she does them all spectacularly. However, the writing is where I take issue. Scarlett is a very complicated woman, to say the least. She starts off the movie pining for this dude named Ashley, who goes off to serve in the war and seemingly dies. Like, he even breaks up with her, said, "I might die, and I don't want you to mourn for me, so we're just gonna end this right now. I may die, so peace." And then she takes Rhett on as her side guy, pretty much. And Rhett is just head over heels for this woman. Like, he buys her things, he treats her well, he pays her debts. Like, Rhett is just falling over himself for Scarlett. And Scarlett is like, "Ashley, though, I like the first half of this movie more than the second half. It's got the most character development, and it's got the most interesting scenes in it. The second half of this movie is just the three-way romance between Scarlett, Ashley, and Rhett. And it gets boring really quick. Because after the scene where she's like, "I'll never go hungry again," she immediately goes back to being the diminutive southern flower. It almost feels like that whole redemption arc was just a waste. And then she's still pining for Ashley, despite literally everyone, including Mamie, played by Hattie McDaniel, which she was really good in the movie too. I'll talk about her in a second. But even she is like, "Rhett loves you. Like, give him your attention." And she's like, "Ashley is the only guy." I don't want to get too deep into spoilers, but basically, after a series of very unfortunate events, Rhett has just had enough. And when he goes to leave, Scarlett's like, "Wait, Rhett, I'm sorry. And she goes and tries one last time to get him, and she's like, and she says the famous line, "Oh, Rhett, wherever shall I go? Whatever shall I do?" And Rhett's like, "Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn," puts his hat on, and walks off into the fog. But during that series of unfortunate events, the main characters just got less and less and less likable. All the charm that Rhett had was gone. All the remaining charm that Scarlett had was gone long ago. And even Ashley, when he comes back, is like, nope. So it's like, no one is likable. And while I found Hattie McDaniel's role to be very repetitive, where she basically says, "Scarlett, you shouldn't be doing that," like that's 90% of her dialogue, she's still really good in the movie, but I was taking her side. It was like, "Scarlett, you shouldn't be doing this to Rhett." I'm like, "Thank you, Hattie. Like I'm agreeing with you." But at the end of the day, Gone with the Wind to me is very much a mixed bag. On the one hand, I do understand why people have called it one of the greatest movies ever made. It is an epic. It It tells a great sweeping story, and it is one of the towering achievements of 1940s cinema. This is a movie for many reasons that would not be made today. However, there are several story elements that, in my opinion, have not held up. Not to mention the fact that this movie is nearly 4 hours long. That's too long. At the end of the day, I do have a lot of respect for Gone with the Wind. However, it's still very much a mixed bag. But that is all for me, guys. Thank you so much, as always, for watching. Next up on the AFI project, we'll be taking a look at the classic biopic from the 1960s from director David Lean. It's Lawrence of Arabia. But if you liked this video, please be sure to leave a like, comment your thoughts on Gone with the Wind in the comments below, and if you like this video and you want to see more like it, hit the subscribe button and click the bell to allow notifications. That way when a new video drops, you'll be the first to know. My name is Ryan Cam, and I'll see you in the next one.